Hi, everybody. Welcome back. This is now going to be your Paragon training for sellers doing a CMA and doing that presentation. It is Wednesday, August 29th, and we are about ready to get started. So as I was explaining offline, I did a showing today on a property that the buyer is pretty interested in. So I'm going to do a CMA for her and see if this house is priced appropriately or not. And then we'll flip it and pretend that she's a seller, and I'll show you how to do the CMA and prepare that for a listing presentation. Okay, so the property we saw today was 6 Ryan Court in Clifton Park. So the first thing that I always do is I pull up the listing. If it's for a buyer, I pull up the listing. If it's for a seller, I pull up the last listing. I want to know the property's history. I want to know, I'm going to do my own homework on it because I don't trust anybody, but I want to know the information that is out there in the MLS right now. So I don't look for the active listing. I always want to see the history, because also what I want to look at is when was the last time this property was sold. For those of you that do or do not know, this MLS number actually corresponds to the year. So when you see 25 like this, it's 2005. When you see 2017 as the first 4 numbers, that's 2017. That's when the listing went live. So it's pretty easy to tell the most recent sale. So obviously 2017 is later than 2009 or 2005 or 2007. So 2017 was when these sellers bought it, as long as it was recorded in the MLS. So, and 2017 is, remember, when the listing went live. That is not when the listing was sold. As you can see, this property was on the market for 188 days. That's very possible that it was listed in 2017, but it didn't close till 2018. Okay, so this property was bought and sold in 2017. So it closed October 20th, so almost a year ago. Let's take a look at this. So considering it's listed right now for $475, we're going to really hope that they did a lot of work to this house, which I can tell you even from the exterior photo they did. So this is what the old listing looked like. And again, if I'm doing this for a buyer, I do all of this. This is my exact process. I want to see what the old listing, what the house looked like before I saw it, so I can kind of help understand where the pricing came from. Okay, so staircase, you know what, I'm going to help you guys out here. Let's go back to what it is now, because we're assuming that you guys have seen this house. Okay. Yeah, they made a lot of updates to this house. I can tell you that right now. So this is what the listing is now. So you can see already that stone, they added that stone. They replaced. So anyway, the floors are brand new. These are terrible and grainy pictures, but they do accurately show that these nice wide plank wood floors, they're also rough hewn, which is really nice. They've got this trim, modern colors, great staging. This kitchen is phenomenal. Yeah. The light fixtures are all updated and gorgeous. Gas range. I believe those are marble countertops. That same flooring was carried throughout upstairs. Huge master suite. Vaulted ceiling. Nice master bath. Soaking tub, toilet room. This is the main bath upstairs. Spare bedroom 1. Really nice composite deck. There's a lot more to love about this house. Every room was pretty much perfect. So now let's go back to the other listing. So now you have a frame of reference. This is what the sellers bought it for. So that stone facade they added. Now you can see they stained the wood on the stairs to match the brand new flooring that they put in. Again, this was carpet, so brand new flooring throughout the first and second floors. They added the trim work, repainted everything. 2 completely different houses. So you can now see.
Oh my God.
I know. The kitchen is like totally different.
Your buyer doesn't know I'm going to live with her.
I'm pretty sure these cabinets are actually updated as well. While some of it is similar, I don't think that they're just painted. Those were really nice cabinets. They might have been. It's a lot of detail to remember. This off. Oh my God, these pictures are awful. This is why we use Christy, ladies and gentlemen, or ladies. First floor laundry. Again, that flooring was carried upstairs. So now you can see why there's such a huge jump in price. They clearly put a lot of work into this house, which, as we all know, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to get it back. But it helps you understand the mindset of the sellers. So that composite deck was there. That was about the only thing that was there. Very different. Very different. So this sold for $390 net to seller. And that's when the sellers bought it about a year ago. And now you've seen what it looks like now. And they are going with a flat fee service. And the original list price was $500. They've already dropped to $475. It's only been on the market 17 days. Okay.
What's a flat fee service?
So this is a flat fee. This is basically a for sale by owner broker. It's the agent doesn't do anything other than get it onto the multiple listing service. But the for sale by owner has promised to pay a fee to the buyer's agent. So good news for us, terrible news for the sellers. Anyway, so now that I have an idea of that, the other thing that I want to do is take a look at the tax record. This little button here, looks like a little New York on a yellow background. That's the tax record. You can change your view in the map search here by going to the little gear. You can look at the road view or you can look at the aerial view, which I typically like to look at. 2782. So the important thing to do here, the reason I'm looking at the tax record is by law, New York State advertising law, what is in the tax record prevails. You are not allowed to advertise a listing with information that is different from the tax record unless there's a proper CO and documentation to back it up. We can sometimes live in the gray a little bit if you have an appraisal. But realistically, if the tax record is saying this is 2782 square feet, we better hope that the listing agent is advertising 2782, which they're not. They should have some documentation as to why they're claiming that it's 2926. This is a fair sale by owner listing. It's possible that their appraisal said that it was for more. It's possible that the previous listing agent, as you can see, listed it for 2926. There should be a reason. And if there's no reason, it means that something was finished and no certificate of occupancy was pulled, and that can cause issues. Will it always cause issues? No. Could it cause issues? Yes. As the listing agent, you should only be advertising what's in the tax record unless you have some sort of documentation to back it up. Again, not something that every agent does. It's something that we do because it's the right and legal way to do things. And you can get in trouble for doing it otherwise. Okay? So we are somewhere between 2,700 and 2,900 square feet. 2,800 square feet, give or take, does feel about right after being in the house. So I'm not going to really question that too much. It's not a big enough discrepancy. When that really gets hairy is when you're like 500 to 1,000 square feet difference or 300 square feet difference, and there's a screened-in porch. It means somebody's either didn't pull a CO for an addition that they did, or they're claiming square footage that doesn't really exist. Okay, 4 beds, 2.5 baths, covered porch, open porch. Yeah. Aluminum vinyl siding, it's vinyl siding, central air. So all the things that we saw, there's no big surprises here. The only discrepancy is really the square footage, but not that bad. Okay. So now we're going to do our CMA. It's a single family home. So we go into a single family search, um, clear all the previous criteria from the last thing. Okay, so when we do a CMA, we want to look at all active, all pending, all sold. When you do a CMA, you also want to go back as far as an appraiser will go back, because as you've probably all heard, you and I can have place one value on the house. The buyers could place one value on the house. The sellers could place another one. But the only one that really matters is the value that the bank appraiser is going to place on the house, because most buyers are going to need financing, right? So an appraiser is only going to go back 6 months unless there's not enough comps. You always want to compare like to like. You never want to compare a colonial to a ranch. Doesn't make any sense. Won't be the same market, won't be the same price. You always want to start broad and narrow it down. Okay. So we're going to start broad, but we're going to keep it to 6 months. And there should, honestly, you can go here and do back 6 months. You can also put in exact dates. If you want to just go all the way back to the beginning of the year, you can do that. We're going to look in Shen schools because that's where this is located. We're going to look, so I'm going to look in two different places because there's two different ways that I want to search this. I'm going to start broad and I'm going to search by school district, and I'm going to search by style of home, which is colonial, custom, or contemporary. This is going to bring back a lot of options because Clifton Park is full of big, wonderful colonials. Okay. We're at 2,800 square feet, 625. We're not sifting through 625 listings. That's ridiculous. So we really want to narrow it down. When I say broad, you want to get it somewhere between 20 and 30 listings to start broad, and then narrow it down from there, right? So I'm going to exclude, because I happen to know that Clifton Park has a lot of new construction. I'm going to exclude anything that's 0 years old. Okay. Now, if you look at this house, it's younger. It's 13 years old. That means I'm not going to compare it to a house that's 40 years old in Clifton Park. Doesn't make any sense. That would put me in Country Knolls North or, one of the Van Pattens. And you're not going to compare this modern home to an older Van Patten, no matter how updated the Van Patten is, as an example. Okay, so let's say anything less than 30 years old. Okay. So between 1 and 30 years old, we still have 295 listings. Still have some work to do. This house is, even by the tax records account, over 2,750 square feet, right? So let's do anything. We're not going to compare a 2,700 square foot home to a 2,000 square foot home. That's too little. So let's go 250 square feet in either direction. Let's do 2,500 to 3,000 square feet. Getting down there, getting down to 92. All right. And again, we're starting broad for a reason. We'll get to that. Total bedrooms. This is a 4-bedroom house, so let's do a minimum of 4 bedrooms. And we'll do a minimum of 2-car garage, although I don't think that's really going to exclude too many. Yeah. And what is our acreage? Half an acre. So let's do anything 0.3 acres to, say, 0.8. 56. All right. So we're close enough. I don't really want to go too crazy here because, again, this is our broad search. So I'm gonna take a look at these. Anything below 50 is sometimes worth taking a look at. So organize by sold price. And so that's going to somewhat organize by status. Now, little known fact, you can click the numbers and drag them to move them. So if you want to organize them, I usually like to organize the pendings in the middle of the actives, and the solds. So I'm going to move these down. Sorry guys, this is a lot of listings, so it's going to take me a couple seconds, a few minutes to organize. There we go. Shwing.
Mm.
Two more. Yay. Okay. Sorry, that took a little bit. All right, so here's what we got. The first thing I'm going to take a look at is the fact that there are 59 listings. Of those, right, it was like 59, 56. Of those, we have 15 of them active. We have 10 of them pending, and the rest are sold. What does that tell us? Anyone? Tells us we have a pretty good market, right? When you have more sold or under contract than you have active, you have a market that's moving, right? We're not static. So it's a good thing. Now I just want to look at, I already know that these are all the same style because we had to narrow it down even further. But it looks like in Clifton Park, there is no shortage, which, surprise, surprise, there's no shortage of younger colonials in this square footage. So what are the price ranges? Anywhere between 355 is the lowest.
Oh, 539.
Oh yeah, we go all the way up to 500, 505. Okay. Now, I will tell you 21 Hidden Farm Lane and 11 Wishing Well Lane are in neighborhoods that do not compare. Do not compare. Those are exclusive neighborhoods. They're very high end neighborhoods. And you're only as good as your neighbors, right? So, what I wanted to get from this is if you don't know the market as well, say I'm looking in somewhere that I don't predominantly work in. I happen to work a lot in Clifton Park. I know the Clifton Park market. I knew all this information, right? But say I'm looking in Gansford, all right, and we're not in a market that we know very well. This is how you get to know the market. You never want to be too unique. You never want to be too cookie cutter, right? You want to know what's going on in that area. So, what we're gathering from this is that this is a very popular style of home and a style of home that ranges anywhere between 350 and 500,000 on average. So now we need to get to the meat and potatoes. We need to narrow this down ideally to 3 or 4 comps, right? In order to get our best idea of value. So let's go back into our search. Now, like I said, you're only as good as your neighbors. So there's a couple things that I want to do now. I'm going to look at just the neighborhood next. Let's see what's sold in the last 6 months just in that neighborhood. Not even narrowing it down by square footage. Or sorry, by style of home. So you click on, did everybody see how I got here? You click on the little globe here, search by map. My computer is confused. Okay. Click here. I'm going to type in 6 Ryan Court in Clifton Park. Silly map. We're going to zoom in a lot more than that. Okay. It's on a one little cul-de-sac here. So let's just see if the cul-de-sac has had any mobility. Okay. So I did my Paragon search. I do my Paragon search right around this neighborhood. We'll see. Only one listing found. So we can't search just by that street because we're not in a street or we're not in an area. It's a new feature that the map, which I don't particularly love. You can center the map on this address and it will kind of do this search thing. So I don't really want to do too much of that.
Are you clicking enter or anything? Or
No, I'm just clicking zoom. This is this feature right here. It's new,
Okay.
which is why it's kind of going a little crazy. I don't love it, so I'm going to click it off. I'm just zooming out here. So what I am going to do is I'm going to do a radius search. Sometimes you'll want to do, well, actually, let's do something different. Let's do the polygon around this neighborhood because it's actually a couple different neighborhoods, but you'll find in Clifton Park there are distinct areas, right? And it's always good to kind of do a little box around that area. So if I look at this, again, starting broad, going narrow, I'm pretending I don't know anything about this area.
How'd you get from the map to this?
So I hit, when I was in the map, I hit add criteria. I polygoned it. I added to the criteria and I hit add criteria. I'm going to cancel it out because I don't want to mess up what it did. And of course, my computer's going to time out and be a little slow. What's going on? Okay. So back into our tax view. Now I'm kind of looking at style here. Not only are there colonials, but there's raised ranches, there's capes. One family is a one family with in-law. Ranches. Mm-hmm. Colonials and ranches. So lots of different styles in these areas. If you look at the age range is kind of all over the place. You've got some new construction here. You've got 30, 20 years old, all the way up to a little bit over 50 years old. Okay. So, like we said, you're really not going to compare a 13-year-old home to a 50-year-old home. So, let's go back and we'll add in now our age range again. And that brings us down to 4. That may not be enough, but let's look at these 4. Okay. We have 17 Primer Court that's sold for 405, or that's pending, at 405. And we have 15 Primer Court that's sold at 400,000. I am fortunate enough that I have seen both of these houses. Okay. So I can tell you that they in no way, shape, or form compare to this house in terms of condition. But we'll scroll through them and get an idea. This one did have wood floors. It was a rehabbed kitchen, but I can tell you it was a builder that owned this house and he cut a few corners in that kitchen. It's also a very small kitchen with not a lot of counter space. Does not compare to that big, beautiful kitchen, that huge island, and all those high-end appliances. You also have all the wood trim everywhere, which right now the style is white trim, not the wood. The carpets were okay. This bathroom, again, same kind of idea. It was updated, but it wasn't necessarily done in the most workmanship-like manner. So, and the basement was somewhat finished with big garden windows. Smaller yard, smaller deck, not composite. Okay, it sold for 400,000. So good news for the sellers. We know it's better than 400,000. Okay, so they're definitely going to get more than they paid for it. Let's try and see if we can justify their asking price. 17 Primer. Again, unfortunate. I've seen this house as well. Doesn't compare in the slightest. It needs a lot of work. Those floors all needed to be refinished. It shows a little dirty. This is kind of a small room. The kitchen is nicer, but awkward.
Weird. Yeah.
Yep.
I'll straighten that out. What was that?
It was the laundry. Carpets upstairs all needed to be replaced.
Yep.
The bathrooms were just builder grade standard. So we know we're also better than this. This was listed at 405 when it went pending. It did have it had a cute basement for sure. Finished basements do add value. Do they add tens of thousands of dollars? No. Usually about 10,000, give or take, a finished basement might add to the value of a house.
So comparing the house we looked at today to this one with the finished basement, you don't feel like that's...
It doesn't even out.
Okay.
No. So these are the things that have sold in the immediate area. 4 Primer Court is now for sale. This is our competition. So for 420, somebody could get this. Looks like it's nicer than the other 2 that sold on Primer, but still dated as far as modernity is concerned. Okay, those cabinets are not as nice. So the reason this is important, not that because it's listed for 420, it means somebody will pay 420, but it means buyers are going to be looking at the market right now and saying, I could get this for 420 or I could get that for 475. They're going to compare the 2 because this is their competition. So what we can say after reviewing these 3 houses is good news for the sellers. They're going to get over 4. Now we've got to kind of decide how far over 4 are they going to get. Is 475 appropriate, or is it still way off base? Okay. Nice screened-in porch. That's really nice. And a cute yard. And that does somewhat look like it might be a composite deck. Maybe not. And a nicer yard than the other 2. I will tell you, though, that this neighborhood also backs to Grooms Road, so you do get a lot of road noise that you don't get in the neighborhood for Ryan Court. So we need to widen this search because we're not really finding anything that's directly comparable. Okay. So we're going to go back into our map search. We're going to widen it out. So instead of just looking in that particular neighborhood, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to do a radius search. Generally, you don't want to compare east of the Northway to west of the Northway. Let's see what a radius search pulls up for right now. For a radius search, you click on draw radius. You put that little check mark and you click and drag out. So let's try and stay on this side of the Northway. Let's see what we can find. 29 listings. That's not too shabby. And remember, we're still narrowing down by age, so we know that we're going to be in about the right ballpark. We've not narrowed down by square footage yet, so maybe that's how we're going to get to the more appropriate listings. Oh, I can tell you right now, condos we don't need. So we should be narrowing down by style at this point. So again, we're going to go back to colonial, custom, contemporary. We've got 11. That's pretty darn good. That's a number that I like to see. So let's see what we're looking at here. All right. Pending ones, we have 457.4, 389.9, 405 we already looked at. One center, but this is a 3-bed, 1.5 bath. That's and 1,500 square feet. We're nowhere even close. Moe Road, which is a busy road, 2,000 square feet at 5 beds, 3.5 baths. They're getting something from the finished basement. 15 Primer, 400. We already know that. Jarrose Place, 420. 3,000 square feet. We're kind of in the range. And Heritage Point Drive, 468. 5 beds, 3 baths, 3,100 square feet. Okay. It's not the same as our 4 beds, 2.5 baths, no finished basement. We're gonna compromise and say 2,800 square feet. Okay. But we're kind of in the right ballpark. So let's check the ones that are really appropriate here. Heritage Point, 3,200. We can take a look at that. We know that this one is a close enough comp. This one, no way. Moe Road, we can take a look at, but it is a busy road. 15 Primer, we already said. And I think these 2 are going to be close to comparable. So if you want to just take a look at those, we hit the checked ones. We already looked at that one. So let's look at this one. 457.4. Says 1 year old. So this was basically new construction. This listing is based on a standard Sequoia model home pictured above as many features and upgrades. Please contact the listing agent for details. So this is really, this was not a 1 year old home. This was really a new construction home. So that hurts because.
And that price could actually probably change, right, depending on what upgrades they do.
Correct. But the base price of this home at 457.4, this was the layout. That's all we have. You can buy new construction for 450. It's not going to have all the fantastic upgrades at that price. But so it kind of hurts because why would you buy something resale for 475 when you can buy, new construction? We have to decide, does that really mean that this house with all these upgrades, do we think that balances out buying something new construction and we get to choose our own upgrades even if it's going to end up going up in price? Because you pay a premium for getting exactly what you want, but if it's something to keep in mind. It may not hurt us as much as we're thinking, but it's something to keep in mind. Let's look at this one on Moe Road. Cute, 7 years old. How big was it? Sorry. 2,000 square feet, it's saying. So it had a finished basement with an extra bedroom, family room, kitchen, and full bathroom. So it had basically like an in-law in the basement, which is very different, but large land.
So I like to put my
In the basement. So you can already tell that this feels small. It's going to feel very small compared to the house that we're trying to do this market analysis on. So this is going to help. While you have beautiful, newer condition, you've got carpet upstairs, and you just don't have that wow factor that this other house has.
Basement kitchen.
So basement kitchen, yep. This is the basement upgrade, so the in-law suite down there. And it does look like it was nicely done. So that sold for $375. But again, it was only 2,000 square feet upstairs, so it was a 4-bed, 2.5 bath at 2,000 square feet. Because remember that extra bed and bath were in the basement. So that's really small compared to this 2,800 square foot home. So again, hard to compare, but let's keep going. 15 primer we already saw. Come on. Waiting for the computer to update. These both aren't 15 primer. Come on. All right. Let's do this. Let's look at the last one. This one should be Jaros, but it's not. This is 15 primer. I don't know why it's not updating. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. All right, back in. Jaros. 420, 12 years old, so about the same age, 4 beds, 2.5 baths, 3,000 square feet. So we're basically the same amount of square footage, right? It was on the market for 160 days. All right. It started at 465. It was at 439.9 when it sold for 420. I saw this house too. Funny story. When I showed this house, the water softener sprung a leak and was flooding the entire basement.
Did they buy it?
They did not buy it. The client got soaked going in and
Oh my gosh.
on taking it off while I was calling the agent. I think this was the house. So nice. We have upgrades for sure. Nice big master bathroom, or bedroom. That needed updates. So we're looking better and better for these sellers in this house right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a beautiful big fenced in yard with a nice gazebo off the deck. That's really nice. But that house was far from upgraded and perfect, right? But it sold for 420, about a half an acre. What I will say drawback to this house is it basically had no backyard. Um, there's an easement that goes in the back, so that is going to hurt our value a little bit. But for 420, we're definitely better than that. We're going to balance out that backyard a little bit. Don't know if we can get up to 475 with it just yet, but we're closer. And this is the last one, Heritage Point. Oh, sorry. 1 year old. And it was why wait to build. So move in ready, east facing colonial. So we know that this was it was resale. It was not new construction, but it was only 1 year old. It was a bit bigger, less land, but that might balance out the fact that we basically had no backyard. Let's take a look at what it looked like on the inside. Brand new, but did it have the same kind of upgrades? Newer carpet. Did have an open floor plan. Very nice kitchen. Not as big of a kitchen, not the same kind of wow factor as the other kitchen. But it does look like it has the wood floors, large dining room, upstairs bonus room, nice master bath. We have a similar tub. We don't have those nice wood floors throughout up here, but we are very similar. It's larger. So fun. Got to get a little sneaky here. There's no picture of a deck. If you do new construction enough, you know that most new construction doesn't come with a deck included. This might be a little bit of a stretch, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that they probably did not have a deck or anything. I bet you this back door here. Oh, here you go. You can see just little stairs going down. So no patio, no deck, which does take away from that a little bit. And this sold for 468. So who has a feeling on how much this comparable house is worth? Anybody feeling anything yet? We're closer. We're definitely a lot closer to our asking price than we initially thought. Because I think we all kind of thought that they were probably a little overpriced considering they bought at $390, right? So the last thing that I want to do, that gives us our good comps. I'm going to start a new search because I want to save those comps. Okay. And I want to go and I want to look at all active, all pending, all sold. I'm going to go back further. I'm going to go back about 18 months because remember, you're only as good as your neighbors. I want to see what's sold on Ryan Court in the last 18 months. What does that neighborhood normally sell for? And sometimes when you have small neighborhoods, while you can't claim total value off of 18 months ago, it gives you kind of an idea of whether or not that neighborhood normally sells. A little high, a little low. Where does it sell? We don't really know yet. So I want to go back and circle that neighborhood right here. There's Ryan Court. And just see if in the last 18 months there were any other sales in that neighborhood. That little cul-de-sac. We got two. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're both the same house. So we're not learning much. Let's try, for shits and giggles, going back 24 months. It's the same. So we're not getting any help there. but it was worth a shot. Maybe something else on the cul-de-sac sold. So now we've got to make a judgment call. If this is a buyer, what are we telling our buyer? If this is a seller, what are we telling our seller? Obviously, the seller's not going to have a listing price in mind yet. Based on the information we have here, I mean, again, we've got the nice thing about younger homes is you can kind of do, I always check this. This may be a bad idea, but we're going to do it anyway. So this was basically brand new construction, but still resale. So I'm going to take the best 3 comps, which really were these 3. I'm going to average those dollars per square foot and just see if we're close. 133 plus 139, we're rounding here, plus 150 by 3. And then our square footage, we're rounding to 2,800, okay? Because remember, we have that discrepancy between the tax record and the listing. So let's say 2,800 square feet. Not really going to help anybody out much. So what that tells us is we're really paying a premium here for those updates, those upgrades, and that move-in ready condition. But dollars per square foot doesn't prevail. You can compare a 2,900 square foot home to a 3,000 square foot home, or a 2,800 square foot home to a 3,000 square foot home. So I would probably say a fair sale price for this house is probably somewhere between $460 and $470, depending on the market. Price is pretty subjective that way. An initial offer, I would probably say I wouldn't start lower than $450. $450 for the initial offer. Try and negotiate somewhere as close to $460 as humanly possible. But realistically, anywhere up to $470 is probably fair. And then you always get the fallback. If you're shooting in the dark here, you always get the fallback of we make a contingent upon appraisal. And that way, if it doesn't appraise for that price, if an appraiser says, oh, you're way off base here, you've always got that fail safe. But seeing the other things that have sold in that age range, and so remember the one over here was older by a lot. Jaw Rose was about the same, and 420, and we were a lot better than that house. So 450 is really the bottom of where we should be on this house. And you had a lot of high-end upgrades, and it was a really good amount of space. And it was a nice neighborhood, nice deck. So really 460, give or take, as high as 470. So how do we get this onto something that looks nice? You go. Oh, look, see? Buyer already wants to come back and see it.
Yeah.
All right, so if you go into Drive, oh, I was already in there, look at that. Go into Company Docs. There's a CMA template, okay? Thank you, Amanda, for that beautiful CMA template.
That was one of the first things.
That was one of the first things.
The room looks up.
Yeah.
What'd I do?
Just say you're welcome.
All right, so this is our CMA template here. This is what you can give to a seller. You can also provide it to a buyer if you so choose. So we're going to put market activity for 6 Ryan Court, Clifton Park, New York, 12065. Oh, yeah, make a copy of it. I always do save as later, but
Oh, because you're opening it in.
I'm opening it from my actual Drive. Yeah. But I save mine here, CMA. Paired 829 by Victoria Romeo. How do I get all of that information easily into here? So here's what we do. Go back into the tax view. don't know why this isn't going back over. There we go. Better. All right, so we're going to organize these the way that we want to. These were all the ones that actually we said this one, 6 Ryan is it. 4 primer, we said these were our comps, right? Checked. So we have 8. That's always good. Couple active, couple pending, and 4 sold. It's about what we want to be showing people. You don't want to overwhelm them. Okay. Export it as a CSV. Okay. So now it's going to give it a second and it should pop up here. Come on. Right. Doesn't want to open right away. So I'm just going to force it open if my computer wants to cooperate, which it may not. The computer back for this. No, those batteries. I don't know if it's the same. So I don't know why this isn't opening. Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties once again. And try downloading it again. No, it's way different. There we go. I don't know why I did that. My apologies. Okay. So now we've got both open. So now you can just copy and paste. This is 6 Ryan Court. So I've also organized this CMA template so that it perfectly matches my Paragon. Okay, so you'll want to organize it in the same way so you can just simply copy and paste. It will make your life much easier. So paste that in there, and then you want to match destination formatting. So it looks like that. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So now we're going to copy these pending ones. Oops, sorry. Toggle between the two, or sorry, actives. I did pending first. Sorry. Match destination formatting. Back in. Where's our active 2? So Ryan is one of them, so we don't need to copy that one. Look at that. I didn't even realize the one just hit the market. And then our solds. Oops. Paste that into our spreadsheet. Then we're going to delete the ones that we don't need, the rows that we don't need. Oop, that was not what I wanted to do. Delete. Okay, and then the last thing you want to do is you want to double check these formulas down here because Amanda had them worked out so that the the list price and whatnot, everything was covered. Just make sure it covers the appropriate rows. So it should be 13 to 16 as it is. So these are all correct. Days on market, we can go from pending. So we should be from 10, not 11, down to 16. So just make sure all those are correct. And if you've got to change one, you probably have to change the others. So what is imperfect about this is it's obviously never an average. And we have a lot of listings on here that are great and really close comps, and a lot of listings on here that show us some information but are not perfect. Like Mow Road, we might even want to delete Mow Road because it's not super comparable, but 2,000 square feet, we can explain that, right? We can explain why that's so much lower. So you'll see it throws off the averages a lot. And the average isn't going to be appropriate for this one because we're saying that it's most closely comparable to the highest two. So sometimes these don't work out perfectly, sometimes they do. But it's never a bad idea to tell a seller, if you're doing this for a seller, hey, you're above average here. We think that you're above average. Days on market is always nice to have. You'll notice too that these that took forever to sell, they were listed a bit high. It helps when you're doing a CMA for a seller. Make sure you point that out. Like they had to come down in price a lot because of this. And then you can make comments up here. So this one up here, no days on market, and you can put little comments in, and this should be perfectly formatted so that when you go to print, it pops up just like that. Once again, thank you, Amanda, for that fantastic template.
Totally welcome.
Very pretty. Any questions about doing a CMA, what I did, why I did it, how we got to the conclusion that we came to? Does anybody disagree with the conclusion that we came to? No one. Yes. Good. Bad. You know where to find the CMA template now. You know how to input into the CMA template. Okay.
In theory.
Obviously, I'm here to help. You can always reach out to Amanda Lamonto if you need help. I'm sure she'd be happy to walk you through it quickly. It is best if you have the actual Microsoft Office applications instead of trying to do this in Google Sheets. That is imperfect and the formatting will likely be off. So for your Mac users, maybe something you want to consider, but you should be able to do most of this in Google Sheets. I haven't worked it yet. So you can try.
I'm still learning this thing too. So.
Any other questions about the CMA process, how to do this for a seller? Because I know that we're running late on time, so I want to be able to get you guys out of here.
Yes, but it could probably be another training session. Maybe is doing a CMA on a property that's not in Clifton Park. Maybe
Right.
something in Gansver or Rock City Falls. Just some of those more obscure places. Clifton Park
Right.
is littered with pendings and solds and
Yep.
whatnot.
Exactly.
I got fortunate, so I just had a listing go up last week. If anybody has a buyer who needs a 3-bed, 2-bath ranch, 5 acres, let me know. But they're in Rock City Falls, and Rock City Falls is a hamlet of the town of Milton, Boston Spa Schools. But it's just far enough out there that people who want Boston Spa, they're like,
They don't want
It's a little far.
yeah, exactly. But I got fortunate where my client's family just sold a home in Rock City Falls that was pretty much identical to his house. They actually went to his house to get an idea for how they wanted to build theirs. But so I had like the perfect comp along with just a couple others too. But I've run into
Yeah.
other times too where
So-
it's difficult.
Realistically, there's no one size fits all way to do this. It's really about trial and error. It's about starting broad, getting narrow, and getting yourself to the point where you can find comps. Sometimes in a space like Rock City Falls, it's better to do by zip code. Sometimes you're not going to do within 1 mile radius, within a 2 mile radius. Sometimes you're going to need to go 3 to 5 miles in a radius. Sometimes you're going to need to get creative and say, okay, this is a cape. I can't compare really a cape to any other style, but let's see what colonials are selling for and let's see what ranches are selling for. Maybe we're going to be somewhere in between. Or if you're a ranch, like maybe let's try and compare this to a cape and see if there's anything recent. In very rare circumstances, you can go back 18 months if there really are no other comps. It's going to be a lot of trial and error. It's going to be using your critical thinking skills and doing your best to find something that's close and giving a little here and there, and then just telling your seller, listen, you've got a unique property. And because it's a unique property, we're not going to be able to, you know, price this perfectly. We're going to have to start somewhere and we're going to have to read the market. So realistically, I don't expect it to necessarily be, although this was not the most straightforward CMA that I could have done in Clifton Park. Um, you've got to kind of work it. Realistically, when you're doing CMAs, especially for the first several times that you do it, I would prefer you to come to me and we do them together. I tell you, okay, do the criteria, send it to me, Amanda. We just did that recently. And then I'll go through and do it myself, and then we'll work together, and I can walk you through my process and my steps, so that you learn kind of where I think outside the box and where I'm very strict, and that's what you've kind of got to do. And I don't expect you guys to be doing CMAs all the time by yourself. Even when I was well into my fourth or fifth year, if I had a unique property, I would always get a second opinion from my broker or from, another agent that I know. And when I was just started my company and it was just me, or before, right after Jackie came on, I would reach out to a broker friend and say, hey, can you run numbers on this for me just so that I make sure that I'm in the right ballpark. Two heads are always better than one. Sometimes I'll see things that you won't, and vice versa. So don't feel like because you can't find the perfect 3 comps, that means you're necessarily doing it wrong. Sometimes there aren't the perfect 3 comps, the perfect 4 comps. Sometimes you do just need to get creative. So even doing another training on it would be kind of difficult because we could do umpteen different
Right.
scenarios where we're going to do something different every time. So the real answer to that is get a second opinion, run it with me, and together we'll come up with the best pricing for our buyer or seller that we can.
Also look through when you have buyers that are going through the purchase process, take a look at the appraisals
Mm-hmm.
too. So you can see what appraisers were actually looking at when they were trying to make sure it was a good investment for the bank.
And if your seller has an appraisal, that's even if it was 5 years old, it's worth looking at just to see, okay, what did the appraiser put this as for square footage? How many beds and baths did they use? If you're ever worried about a tax record or something like that, appraisals are documentation of what exists, and sometimes they can be very helpful. Any other questions before I end this recording? Okay. Thank you guys. This will be uploaded on the YouTube channel shortly. If you have any questions, reach back out. Hopefully this helps you go through CMA and how to do it.